Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mic Check
2.
My name is Rachel.
I'm Aja.
I'm Sean.
And today we are joined by the one and only. What number are we on?
4.
4? Is this your fourth time returning?
No, it's my third one.
I'm 3rd.
Oh,
Third
lucky
time's
number.
the charm.
Lucky
Yes.
number 3. We have Miss Sherletta Carter. Go ahead and introduce yourself for those first time listening in that may not have heard the other two. They're going to have to go back and listen.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sherletta Carter. I am a licensed clinical social worker with St. Hope.
I'm glad you ain't block us yet.
Yeah. Our number's still going through. Because nobody likes coming up in here. They're always nervous, but y'all do so well. So we're really happy that you could join us. And our topic is a little serious today. So let's
Dive in.
Let's dive into it. You already know what I'm going to say. We're going to talk about grief today, which can be heavy, depending on, the
circumstances.
Yeah.
And I know a lot, we just passed through the holidays and, with holiday time, that's very rough for a lot of people everywhere just because you never know if they may have lost someone, maybe fell out of a relationship or what have you. So
Yeah.
we thought it'd be a great idea just to go through coping mechanisms, kind of describe how you can recognize grief and if you're going through anything, and then ways and outlets that you can do to help yourself.
Manage your grief. Yeah.
So does grief feel different from like regular sadness? Is it like clinically different, or is it just kind of?
I would say it definitely feels different than regular sadness or depression because you can actually quantify like what it is, right? Mm-hmm. It is, now there's sadness in grief, but it definitely is a difference when you've lost someone or you've lost a job or you've lost a relationship or a major relationship. You definitely feel it because there's different types of grief.
What are the types of grief?
Well, I mean, it depends on the loss, whether it's a death, a death of a loved one or a death of a child. Two different types of that in and of itself is two different types of grief. The loss of a marriage.
Oh yeah.
Because a lot of times when you hear grief, people automatically will assume you're talking about
Passing.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
Because you can grieve, I think importantly, relationships.
Yeah.
Like you can have like an ideal of what you think that relationship will embody, and then when that person maybe disappoints you or you disappoint them, and now you're just in a state of like disbelief, I guess, or like grief.
Yeah.
So definitely. I guess, can we define what grief is for those who may not know? Like you said like clinically.
Grief is the loss of something significant in your life. Mm-hmm. Basically what it is in a nutshell, right?
Right.
Whether that's a physical death of something or whether that's the death of a relationship and that person is still alive. Mm-hmm. But it's loss of significant loss in your life that impacts you in a negative way.
And I know it's like kind of cookie cutter online sometimes. They're like the 5 stages of grief. Mm-hmm. Do you guys follow that here when you're doing your treatment?
We definitely do. Mm-hmm. So there's 5 stages. Initially grief was developed into 5 stages of grief, and then after that came 7 stages of grief.
Okay, so now we're on 7. Yeah. I knew the 5. What are the 7 stages?
Well, the additional stages is shock and I think I actually can write it down. Shock and testing. So, but the 5 stages are denial, anger, bargaining, acceptance. Yeah.
So did the 6th one was you said testing?
Testing.
What does that mean?
It's more of if I try this, will I feel better?
Oh.
Kind of like,
sense.
Let me go and pull a bottle and will this make me feel better kind of thing.
It could be that, or it could be something healthy. It could just be, well, let me go. For some people who are experiencing grief, they may stop interacting with people. So let me go try to spend some time with my family and friends and see how I feel. Mm-hmm. It could be testing in a positive way.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Like a trade-off. Mm-hmm. Like if I do this, will it make me feel like this?
Yeah. So testing is typically positive, but grief is not linear. It doesn't go in one straight way. It can be, you can cycle through things, right? You can get triggered by something and, it's been years and then all of a sudden it brings you back.
I think it's important that you said like testing is usually positive, because I was going where you were going, Sean, like, oh, I'm about to drink the pain away, or
you know how you always hear the stories of people and
buy new clothes. Yeah.
Well, that's typically, because one of the other stages of grief is depression as well. But when you're doing that, it's typically you're probably in a stage of denial.
Yeah, that denial,
anger.
The denial stage is tough.
Yeah.
So what does denial typically look like? Let's make an example of like you lost your job.
Lost your job.
Like
I can't believe this happened.
I can, yeah.
Yeah.
Even in a relationship, I can't believe this is over. Or you still, I could use an example. I'll use myself.
Okay.
So let's say you break up with your partner.
Yeah.
You don't believe it's over, and you still are trying to find some sort of connection or something that's non-existent there, but because you haven't gotten to the stage of acceptance, so you're still trying to reach out or do things that you were doing when you were a pair, and now you're not a pair. You're like, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah. I mean, denial is the opposite of acceptance, right? It's just, no, I can't, that didn't happen. That's not real. Especially when somebody died. I can't believe it happened. That you can't move past that. Like I still feel that this person's here. Why aren't they here?
Like a parent. Like if you were to lose your parent, that'd be a
parent.
So how do you support somebody who may be grieving like the loss of somebody, whether they're passed or they're just no longer in their life? How would, like, as a friend, would you support? Like, for Sean's example, how would I be able to support him in that?
Being there. I think we talked about this last time. I think we were talking about suicide. It's kind of the same thing. It's just simply being there. That's one of the biggest things with grief, is that people who are grieving feel that people kind of avoid them like the plague, as if it's contagious, that they can catch it. But just being there, and sometimes you don't have to offer advice. You can just simply say, I don't understand, but I'm here for you.
It's kind of funny because I'm thinking of Sean's example. I've been in something similar, but like the friends like enabled the behavior. Like if you tell them like, oh, hey, no, I'm not interested, but the friends are still like, no, you got a chance still. Like they make the person feel like they still have a chance. And then that person, you never experienced that? Like you're...
Go ahead and slide in that DM real quick.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she just wants you to pop up on her. You know, that's like the culture now. Like, oh, if I block you... Yeah, it's very... Like, if I blocked you, why you didn't write my email? Or why you didn't... Like,
he don't love you if he ain't write your email.
Yeah.
That's so like, though, that's insane.
But there are friends that, like, enable it, that behavior. That could get kind of... I guess that's a different topic.
I mean, that's definitely not helpful, right? Like, if the relationship is over... do not enable it.
Right.
Unless the other person that's a different type of loss and there's a different situation. Like unless the other person on the other party is like, yeah, there's a chance. Okay, that's different. Right. But if it's over, it's over. We don't want to delve into the world of stalking.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so funny because
we don't circle back.
My friends always laugh at me like if I you break up or, you just stop communicating with somebody. I hate that the next question. You think y'all gonna get back together? No.
I know. We know.
No, and I think that's I don't know if it's a defense mechanism, but it just helps me to just continue my life because
which is acceptance.
It just because when I was younger, I used to just be in la la land, like well maybe. I always had a well maybe.
Yeah.
I just no, now I'm like, no.
It's not me. So my detachment is crazy. It's crazy. It's, I could write a book. I just, same day. I act like you never existed, which is also a defense mechanism.
Yes.
So
let's not. This is not your session, baby.
I thought it was my time. I thought it was my time.
Next episode.
This is not your session.
But because grief for me is different, so I can say, like in my adulthood, I haven't lost like an immediate family member. Like I've lost like extended family, but like an immediate family member, thank God. And then with my child having like a life-threatening condition, I just like look at things differently.
Yeah.
So like some things that people are just like, you hurt my feelings. I'm just like, life is just so much bigger than this moment for me. And like, I I'm just like already on to the next thing. Like I'm just like.
Well, and that's something too. There's, I went to an amazing training on grief years ago, and the trainer talked about how grief is specific to our personality, right? Because we all are individuals and we grieve differently, and how we grieve oftentimes is dependent on our personalities, how we may move through something. Like you may take a month where somebody may take years, depending on the type of loss, right?
Right.
And so, and it also past trauma, past experiences, all of that influences how we process our grief.
Right. So I think for me, like if I lost somebody super, super close, I'm kind of like scared to see how I would grieve that because I haven't had to grieve anything like heavy. You either?
I've never lost it, like an immediate family member, something that, like truly impactful.
Yeah.
So I can. I've had people around me that have lost someone close, and I feel for them and try to be there, but I'm like, I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
Mentally, if I'm there to be able to, how am I going to process this?
Yeah. When you say process, you mean just for yourself?
Like just mentally, like, let's just be realistic. Let's be transparent. We all know, like, for instance, let's say everyone, our parents, and it's time.
Yeah.
You never want to hear you'll never want to hear my mom or my dad is going to transition on. But you know something may have happened and it's going to happen eventually.
Yeah.
Do you start to mentally prepare for it? Or, you know what I mean? Like, let's say if they're in the hospital, you know it's not getting better and they get bad signals from the doctors, and how
do you deal with that? Yeah, which I think is right, like a practical question. I think you can mentally prepare yourself for it. Do you obsess over the idea of death? No. But, you know, we all, whether we like it or not, have a relationship with death. Death is very much a part of life, as is birth. And so, like, processing it and preparing yourself for that inevitable, right? When things come up, it's having those conversations, especially as our parents get older. That's one thing as well. And then there's the other thing when, say, if it's a child that's died, that's a very different type of grief, and how do you process and deal with that? And I think it's very much of a lot of times people's faith helps them a lot in that life can change in a moment.
So, but I just feel to piggyback on you, just like, I'm sorry, I didn't say things of that nature though. So, but to kind of go along with you, I guess, like, what would be a preparation tool? Like, do you ask, like, are you like what do you recommend for somebody to do that's maybe losing like a grandparent? Like, look at old photos or talk to, or like, do you just, like, what's
is there really an actual set way? I wouldn't think so.
There's not really a set way. There's, in therapy, there's all types of tools and things that you can do and use. And even as a therapist, what I use is dependent on my style and what I work with. And I tend to lean towards more like, it's called like attachment-based therapy. Very relational, because we as human beings are very relational. But it is not a set way. It really depends on the person's relationship with that person that's passing.
Because if you have a good relationship, you'll look at it kind of differently versus if y'all were estranged or you said something hurtful and you're just like, I let all these years pass and I just never got over it. So I really do think it just depends on the place that you are in your life with that person.
Very true. And it depends on what's going on, right? And so I have, I've been a therapist for a while now. And so I've had experiences of working with a lot of people in grief. I've had experiences of calling somebody the day before their child died the day before, and I called them the next day, and they were in the midst of preparing the funeral, and it was a tragic loss. And just in that moment, like, therapy starts running there, and it's like, I'm sorry. I'll just sit on the phone, and if you need to cry,
let it out.
I'll just be here, and I'll be present with you in that.
That's a good point, to just be present sometimes.
That's what we talked about last time in the previous podcast with the suicide awareness, was making sure you were present in the person's life when they were extremely vulnerable.
I do. So there's other things I do too, though. I'll have them talk about their loved one, the person who passed. We'll do kind of like a letter writing where they write and they talk about, especially if it's a complicated relationship, where they need to kind of, when they get to the point of they're able to write it down, and pen and paper is very powerful. And there's studies that talk about the power of journaling and the power of writing and writing it down. And then we go through it and reread it off, and we talk about things, and we talk about the relationship, and if we need to go through some forgiveness, we go through some forgiveness. If we need to go through some acceptance, we go through some acceptance.
I like that. I actually have a really close friend who both her parents passed, and on their birthdays or like the day of their passing, she always likes to like do like a lunch. Like she doesn't want to go to work that day. Yeah. She wants to kind of make it like a celebratory day, and I really think that shows a lot of strength for her. You know, I think she's one of my strongest friends ever. But I do think, just like you said, being there, like, so if she wants to go to lunch, I'm like, oh, it's on me, or just kind of showing up in different ways. Yeah. And I have to start marketing in my calendar, because I think it's like people kind of expect you to remember what's important to them too. So if you're gonna like be a friend, to kind of like mark like, oh, okay, today is the day. To be mindful. So like, you know, like, leading up into the week, they may be a little bit more, you know, moody or antsy because this is coming up.
Anxious. Just thinking about that.
Yeah, depressed. Or, you know, even in that, like the days of remembrance, or like holidays, or celebratory days, birthdays, anniversaries, all that stuff right there. It depends on the person. Right. Some people do well when they celebrate, and some people get very depressed, and it is actually not healthy for them. And so I think it's just like, what do you need today? Like, right. Do you need to celebrate, or do you need me to distract you? Do we need to go do something else?
That's a good point, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, she's a celebratory girl.
But then if a person if it's been years and they're still really tearful, or there's a lot of anger there, then it's okay. Have you thought about a support group? Have you thought about going to therapy? Because at some point it starts leading to like clinical depression, or, you know, delayed grief.
Do you notice a difference when it's like if a child loses a parent at a younger age versus like our age if we lost a parent?
I would say yes and no. I mean, because I have a lot of patients that have lost their parents at a young age, and it depends on the person.
Right.
And it depends on, did they get help, or did they have support? Maybe it's not therapy. Maybe they just had a good support system where that support system honored that parent that passed, and they talked about them. Or was there some complication? What occurred surrounding their death? You know? It really depends on it, because we're so unique as people, and our experiences with that person can be vastly different. Because what if your parent passed and you had a horrible relationship, and then you're an adult?
Yeah, you're probably like, you know.
Or it could be sad.
God, Rachel.
It could be that, and it could be like deep, like sad anger and sadness at the same time.
But, well, for me personally, I know, so me and my mother, we're not super, super close. So her passing wouldn't affect me as much as I think my father's passing. So I do greatly think it does depend on the relationship you have with them, the impact, their influence with you. But I would be sad. I'm not, because she's probably listening. Sorry, Mom. But if it was my dad, I feel like I would have a greater, you know, grieving process. It'd probably be like a little longer. Or I probably would revert back to the steps, because you said you can go to acceptance one day and then be angry the next. So, yeah.
Sometimes you don't know until that person passes. Because I've had people say, like, I'll be fine, or I'm going to be horrible. And sometimes it's complete opposite. Like, you don't know until you've experienced it a lot of times.
So let's say if there isn't, or someone's grieving, for whatever the case may be, and they don't have a support group, are there some healthy, I know we usually talk about the typical finding something to do to occupy your time, like going to the gym, or even taking a walk outside. Is there anything that you would recommend people to do that are grieving, that aren't ready to get support from actual people?
I would definitely say, you know, they can journal. They can.
I know, you mentioned journaling is a good one.
Yeah. Sitting and being present with themselves, allowing some quiet time. Sometimes it could be they need to do something that distracts themselves as well. I know we talked about exercising. I mean, there's different things that they can do. But if they're not ready to talk with somebody else, it's just, can you be present with yourself? Can you sit and just process and think about the memories, think about the positive things, think about maybe some of the negative things.
You know, my therapist, not to cut you off, I'm sorry, recommended, like, if we would have, like, a really, really heavy session and it was, like, around loss or grief or just childhood stuff, she always recommend listening to music.
Yes.
And music makes you, I know you love music, Sean. Like, music
I hate music.
You do not.
Okay.
Cut that. But music can literally turn your mood around.
Yeah.
Like, you can hear, and I don't know what it is with my brain, but if I'm sad, I need the saddest song ever. Like, I need
That. Now, see, that's
Oh,
the
so
part
you're-
that's
are
so
you-
crazy to me.
so-
When people listen to sad,
So wait, so we're gonna shift away from like tragic loss, and we'll talk
about like
relationshipy stuff. So
Yeah, I have a
are
go-to
are you the one
song.
that if y'all break up and you have to put on Mary J. Blige or Keisha Cole?
It's not Mary J. It's You Made a Fool of Me.
oh my God.
Who is that by?
Who is that? It was on Love and Basketball.
That song is,
I know who that is.
I
No.
can't.
you
Made
I love that song.
no.
Yeah, that
no.
is my. And
What did she
I
say?
can
Tell me why.
Yeah, tell me. And it's crazy because I can even be the one leaving the relationship, and I'm gonna be like,
She be like,
"Who
you
made
know
a fool
what?
of me?" I'm playing the song,
But
it
you
just
know,
makes
music
me
helps
feel-
you process things, or art. Like if the person is artistic, I'm like, get some paint and just paint, draw. Music it's like dance.
Mm-hmm.
Do things because it's like it helps you express things that sometimes you can't express.
The funniest story. I don't want to talk about myself.
But we put it all out there today.
Y'all, so one time when I was in college, me and my college boyfriend had broke up. Y'all, I'm so embarrassed
She's
to
so
say.
silly.
And I'm not that person. Please don't play sad songs because I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is I am a silent crier. So,
What's a
like, I'm in the
silent crier?
backseat. Like, I'm just... So, like, I'm
So
in the
you're just sitting like
backseat,
this?
and my friends are, like, driving in the front. They, like, having and talking and laughing. And, like, this sad song come on.
So you were triggered.
And I was, like...
Just crying in the back.
crying, and my friend Jay was like, turn the song off, Asha crying. And my friend was like, well, why she crying? And she was like, no, my boyfriend just broke up. Y'all, I just was like, this is embarrassing. Like, get me out the car. Put me on the side of the road. Don't play no...
But you needed that cry.
I could have did that on my own, though, because I'm a crier.
Yeah, I need to do
You
it.
said on my own terms.
Don't put the sad music on around me.
Oh no!
No.
Once I hear that, I gotta play it like 10 times because I'm like, oh, you did. I'm having a video in my head like, yeah, you did me wrong, or if
Which
it's
is
my
funny
fault,
because
I'm
if
not.
you break up the relationship, you playing the song.
I'm still playing it, but I'm not as aggressive in my video. When I break up, I'm just like, yeah. You thought I was gonna be a fool.
I don't want to play.
Oh my goodness.
I think too. I don't play the sad.
You just sing it to yourself.
Yeah.
I don't play the sad songs because I don't need that moment to stick.
So what you
I
playing?
need to-
Like Cardi B?
No, I'm not a trap princess.
Yeah.
You're
You know
playing
that.
Beyonce, all my single ladies.
Oh my God, no. I mean, I have like a happy playlist. Like I have like music that I listen
Just
to.
uplifting music.
It's not just really, in one direction, but it just makes me feel good.
I feel really
and
bad.
that's
Troy,
what I
please
do
cut
because
my confessional out.
I know mine is childish, but it makes me feel, it gives me hope. I play stuff that makes me hopeful. I don't need to sit in the moment because I've already told myself, why am I doing it? It's not. It's over.
I'm a delusional girl, so I play at least 10 times. If I don't hear the 10th time, it's like a ritual. I know, Sean, don't judge me, but I gotta listen to it, and then once I hear it, and that's how quick my detachment is. I'm just like, oh, by the 10th time,
The 10th time.
I'm tired.
Specifically 10 times.
10 times, I'm good.
Okay.
You don't. What do you do, Sean? You don't have no music.
I Keisha called it.
Oh, should have cheated.
I Keisha called it the whole way through. The first go round.
I do a vlog. It's like a personal thing. Like I'll set my laptop up and I talk about what happened, and I start from the beginning, like whatever I need to say.
I love that. I mean, that's a form of journaling.
Yeah.
And it's something that I know you kind of you said it a little bit. I was going to expound on it when you said being hopeful. I know a lot of people even at that present moment, depending on the situation, and I'm going back to actual tragic loss for I'm shifting it for a second. But let's say this is their moment to say, you know what, let me find, if I can't find it from people, maybe I can find it in a more spiritual realm, and it may get them back into church. So just it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go to a specific church or a specific denomination, but you just getting more in touch with your spiritual self and a higher being to where you find some kind of ground to, you know what I mean, to uplift yourself.
I don't know if the way that I think the way I think about things now, don't quote me now, I don't know if it's the best. Sherletta will tell me.
Troy, get ready to edit.
Yeah.
But I think it's just now, the older that I get, I feel like when I was younger, I always used to just be like, oh, you know, I could be sad for not 6 months at a time, but, you know, I could just be sad for a super long time because I have so much life. I feel like I still do have so much life, but it really disappoints me sometimes when I don't want to harbor on anything. And then I look back on it and it's like, okay, in 2022, I spent 9 of the 12 months just sad and harboring and not even trying to find peace or trying to move through the situation. It helps me because I think it gives me a sense of being more appreciative of other things in my life or just the time that I have to kind of just be present in my own life instead of more so focusing.
Yeah. I think it also gives you like a goal, right? Like, okay, right. I don't want to stay here. I know I need to honor like what happened and process it.
But not just stay there.
Yeah. And would you say making like even a goal calendar could be part of the acceptance stage as far as you don't want to really put a time limit on grief, but at the same time it's like, at what point do I
guess it's the situational grief. Like, let's say if it's like you lost your job, do you give yourself like a week to be sad? Is that what you?
Yeah. For the most.
I think exactly that. It depends on the type of grief. When it's a death, that's different.
Yeah.
And depending on the proximity to that person, I feel like the grief that I find most difficult for some people and a lot of people is when their child has passed, especially if it's a young child. Mm-hmm. That is probably the hardest. And because it's, especially when the birthdays come up and holidays and it's even me, like I try not to cry and it's hard. But I think if it's like a loss of a job or a loss of a relationship, that's a little bit different, right? Like, okay, like where am I at right now? I'm accepting it. I'm able to move on. When it's a death of someone, it's a little bit different.
So how long would you give like a relationship, ideally? Like how long?
Or what have you typically seen?
Yeah, to grieve a relationship before like moving on.
I think it depends on the relationship though, because if you think about it, I remember somebody was talking about how like marriage and divorce, you kind of, when you're divorcing somebody or if you're in a long-term relationship for, let's say 5 years, you thought you was going to marry this person, you really go through a deep stage of grief because the relationship has died. And now you have to do this whole, you do the rest of your life without that person.
Like a new identity.
Right. So it is, I think with relationships, that's just really, really difficult, or it's hard to put a time stamp on that because... it's just like you were so accustomed to this person being in your life where did y'all say vows, where y'all headed to getting married and things like that.
I heard the thing with the time that I heard, however long the relationship is, just half the time usually takes you to get over it. So like if you had a 2-year relationship, it's probably gonna take you like a year to kind of get over that. Well, I mean, it could take longer. It could take longer. I'm just saying, but that's usually the rule. Like if you were in a 3-month relationship, you shouldn't be. You think like a year later, you should still be like,
I'm gonna be boo-hooing down.
But you never. You just never know because what transpired in those 3 months. A lot could transpire in 3 months.
That's true.
Was it a healthy relationship? Was it an abusive relationship? Is it
so let's
you dating a partner that's triggering because it reminds you of somebody else? You know, it's hard to say. That's why anytime one of my friends or anybody, they're going through a difficult time or they're going through a breakup, I don't ever want to be cliche, but I kind of just tell them, like, you know, it's okay. Like, most people have been through like a breakup. You know, don't ever feel embarrassed. We all wish we could fast forward. When I was in that boot, girl, I was like,
that's a grief too, because you had to grieve a different lifestyle, like your old lifestyle, having to kind of take a pause. But it can't, like, I feel like grief can just show up in so many categories.
It can. Life. It really can. It can show up in different categories. I think, though, as far as like the timeline, it is very different based on your personality and based on like past losses. If it's a loss of relationship and it's been a short relationship or a long relationship and you've had other bad relationships, it may take you a lot longer because of how you process it. It is really all dependent on the person. Typically, we do look at like grief as far as like a death of somebody. Like we look at around 2 years of grieving. When it goes past that, then we start looking at, okay, has this led into like depression, into clinical depression? How do we treat that? What else is going on? But
are there other signs that it's going into depression? Just
that is past a certain mark. There are in the DSM. There are specific time frames that are for specific
types of grief.
Yeah, types of grief and types of diagnosis. So if it's going past a certain time, then we look at, okay, is this depression? Is there something else going on, or did you have past trauma with somebody, or is it depression and that you're not able to move past? And that's okay. Let's work from there.
And especially when people are having a hard time trying to come to that moment, it's okay to say, you know what, maybe I should talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And see if maybe they can help me identify what the root issue is and go from there.
Yeah, definitely.
I think what the biggest mistake is sometimes people be like, it wasn't that serious. I would never tell anybody. Because everybody processes something different. Like, you know how you would want for your friend to like, oh, I just wish you would like not be sad. But I never want to like invalidate their feelings. Like, if we crying on the couch today, we crying on the couch today. But because I think that makes it worse. If you tell somebody like, oh, it was only 3 months. What are you boohoo crying about? You know, that now they're feeling crazy and you're not really allowing them to really go through their stages. So
I mean, definitely you don't want to invalidate somebody's emotions, right, at all. I think if it's a year and they're still okay, do you think that there's more that's going on?
Right.
That's all about how you say it. And two, people sometimes say the most insensitive things, not intending to be, when somebody has died. Or say if they had a miscarriage, which is a grief, and people come up and say, oh, you'll have more children.
Yeah.
Like I lost my child, you know, so, yeah.
So, I think that's a good point. A lot of times if somebody does pass, a lot of people don't know what to say. Is there like, I know we said like, obviously that's horrible, don't say that. But like in a general message, like what do you think kind of like is simple but effective to tell somebody who lost, like, I support you, or I'm here for you, or
I'm here for you, and I'm
you
sorry.
Need anything?
Do you need anything? And mean it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I'm sorry, and I know that you're hurting.
Yeah, I felt better.
Empathetic. To be empathetic in situations. I mean, you know, both of my parents are still alive, so I know that it would be difficult to lose a parent. And I don't ever try to act like I do know what that feels like, because I don't. You know, so that's my biggest thing. Like, I'm here for you. Whatever you need. If you want to sit in silence, we could sit in silence. If you want to talk it out, we could talk it out. Like, you know, even if you want me to turn my back and you just scream or get whatever your release.
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing. Like, sometimes you have to take yourself out of the situation because, like, you don't want to say the wrong thing. But the last thing I would ever want to do is make somebody I love feel like they're alone in the situation, because I don't want to double down on how you already feel.
Yeah. I just noticed, like, a lot of times, y'all know, like, the little TikToks and stuff. A lot of people are like, oh, I didn't know what to say, so I didn't reach out at all. And I think, like, that's more hurtful than potentially saying the wrong thing.
Because they feel alone.
Yeah, for me.
Can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Of course, Troy.
Yes.
Breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah, breaking the fourth wall. So I think the biggest mistake people make in trying to make somebody feel better is they're trying to relieve their own discomfort instead of recognizing there's going to be discomfort.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good
So
point.
I feel bad, right? I'm awkward, I'm weird, I don't know what to say. So I'm like, oh, you can have more babies,
Yeah.
or, I make some stupid statement to try to make me relieve the discomfort in that moment instead of just saying, yes, this sucks. This is horrible. I'm sad too. Let's be sad together.
Right.
Yeah. That's so good. And that's true. Like, it's people's own uncomfortability or just like seeing you in pain that they try to fix it. Which is why just sitting in silence is so powerful, because it lets them know that, oh, okay, you feel okay. I can be safe enough with you that you're not going to try to fix it. You're not going to say you understand. I just need you to sit with me or mow my lawn or pick up my child. Things like that. I just need you to be there.
Like the day-to-day stuff. That's a good point.
I think grief can come through anything. I feel like grief can kind of come through like any type of form of rejection almost, or, like you worked really hard, to go to Harvard and you didn't get into Harvard. You feel like you spent 4 years working hard and then you open the mail and it's like, thank you for your application, but unfortunately, so it could be anything.
I like that you tied it to rejection. I think that makes a lot. Like,
Yeah, because sometimes it's not, as permanent as death. Like death to me is one of those things that's like very, very permanent.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes, living, it's rejection. Like you didn't get the job or you didn't get into the school you wanted. You didn't get the lead in the play. You immersed yourself into this character and you still didn't get it.
Right.
That could be hard to deal with.
I think it's like important too to not like sometimes not to get ahead of yourself, like you've already got it sometimes.
Yeah.
Like let's say your job is in sales and you're just like, oh, I already got 3 sales, and now you're spending like you got 3 sales and you haven't got it yet. And then when you don't get that, it hits a little different too. You're just like, oh, not only am I sad, I just spent my life savings because I thought it was coming back in. So
well, then it hits some of the stages of grief, like shock, denial, anger, right?
Yeah, like I'm just so disappointed in myself. Like why would counting your chickens before they hatch? Sometimes that's what they do.
I think with
How old are you?
I think. Do you find that like with your when you're in sessions and people are bouncing back, do you find that people stay in one stage a lot? Like a lot of your clients stay in like one stage a lot more than others? Like I feel like for me, you could leave it in. But I feel like for me, it would probably be like, I think I would get stuck in bargaining. Like, oh, if I do this, maybe this will happen. Yeah, I think that would be like where I would get stuck. Where I'm like, I need to call somebody.
Yeah.
It really just depends on the person. Some people I work with or come in, they're kind of at that place of bargaining, but a lot of times it could be anger or just depression.
Depression, okay.
A lot of depression and just sadness and hurt and sadness.
I have a personal question. Like when you're in your therapy sessions and it's getting heavy, like how do you cope with that? If it's like triggering something for you, like, oh, I also too have experienced a similar loss or a rejection, like, because I think for me, that's why I probably didn't go full therapist mode, because I'd be in that girl like, me too, last Thursday, and they'd just be like, oh my God, do I get her a tissue? Okay.
I saw a tweet where, I don't know what to call it now, but this
a
girl,
friend.
she was like a therapist, and she was like, she was like, she disliked, because somebody asked her, hey, have you ever had a session and you really just like the person, but you want to be friends with them, but then you realize you can't be friends with them?
Like,
I saw that.
I commend your job.
Yeah, because I know me for sure. And I think Aja too would be in there like, girl, and then laugh. He said the same thing, but I didn't believe him.
That's not my field. That's not my calling.
That's
not my purpose. No, that's
I
why
think you're really good at it.
You have to separate yourself. I didn't cut you off. You have to separate yourself. Like
You do, and because it's about that person, and you don't want to take anything from that person. Also, our ethics are against us self-disclosing like that. But but we're also human beings, and you can have countertransference where that person reminds you of somebody or it triggers you, and depending on what it is, like when it's child loss, I haven't lost a child, but I have a child, and that can be hard, especially if like child's around my child age, and I'm like, okay. And so I do a lot of grounding, and for me, I do a lot of prayer and just reminding myself, what does this person need in this moment? Mm-hmm. Like, because we all get triggered by things.
Right.
Period.
I think that's just so important because I promise you, I'm in there like, oh my God, me too. I always think like people want to be related to, and I sometimes miss the point of like they just want to be listened. So I try to let them know. I'm always like, you're not alone. Like, like this is a safe space. I know how you feel. I felt that way before. Let it out. But. Sometimes people don't want to hear that you went through it too. Like they're just like,
This isn't about you.
Yeah. Thank God my friends have never been like, girl, it ain't about you. They appreciate. I feel like they appreciate like my input. That's why they come to me. But that's a very good point to like sometimes take a step back and be like, what is this person like asking for?
I'm just I think I'm just a good listener, though. Mm-hmm. I do really good at listening. And I think that's how I leave with all the conversations. As soon as somebody calls me, I'm like, okay, which option do you want? You just want me to sit or you want feedback?
Because I'm a problem solve. What you want?
Which one do you want? But I typically just like to sit and listen. Because I think that's where a lot of people struggle, like having the safe space. So sometimes you just need to get it out. Yeah. But you don't really know where you want to get it out. Like, you don't want to be at the Starbucks and you like, let me tell you what happened to me last Tuesday. And this person is just trying to enjoy their caramel macchiato and they don't know you. Yeah. So I typically just sit and listen.
Mm-hmm. What type of one are you, Sean?
A little of both.
A little bit of both.
I'm going to listen, but then you're going to still get the feedback.
I don't like unsolicited advice, so that's why I don't give it.
No, if Sean calls me something, I'm like, they're lost. I'm pumping my friend. I'm like, oh, you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. They're lost.
She is 72, y'all. With that line.
Yeah.
72. Don't
Best thing since sliced bread. I'll tell you.
Cut that out, Troy. Cut it out.
No, keep it. I just think so highly of those people around me. I'm just like, they not saying this has happened, but if a friend calls me and they're like, he left me. Girl, the biggest mistake he ever made. He crying right now.
What if she's the mistake?
Not this very time.
That is another episode.
I'm the enabler friend. I'm like, I'm not gonna tell you to call again or nothing like that, but I'm gonna be like, he messed up.
I have an enabling friend and I'm not. I be like, girl, I just feel deep inside. Well, you need to get your feelings checked. Because
Now, I do have a friend who I'm never wrong. I'm like, I messed up. Really? Did you mess up? I mean, technically, from 2 years ago, if that didn't happen to you, I'd be like, no, friend, like, I already apologized. It was my fault. Oh, okay. Like, I do have a friend like that. I'm never wrong. And it feels good, but, like, you have to be in check of your ego. Because, like, you are wrong sometimes.
No. I have a question for Sherletta.
Yes.
Talk about when people get stuck in grief and they're not moving. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What are the signs and what do you do to help them progress through their grief process?
Well, I look at first how long it's been since the date of that grief, right? Whatever it is, if it's a relationship or it's a death. And I start to look at the relationship dynamics surrounding that person. I do assess and see what else is going on with them mentally. Not to place blame on them, but just try to see what is keeping them kind of stuck in the mud. And then I ask them, do they want to move out of that place? Mm-hmm. There's some underlying needs we get sometimes when we stay in a place. Whether it's we feel like we're not getting the attention we need or the needs from others, or there's something that that person may be getting from that. But I try to really, really look at what are some other variables that are causing you to be stuck, or what fear do you have about letting this go, like releasing this.
Because sometimes grief can become your personality.
Just like depression. I tell some of my patients who've lived in a depressive state for a long time, when it's not necessarily clinical, but it's just kind of become their personality, is that it's been your best friend, and it must be scary to have to let this go. To maybe consider alternative viewpoint, or to change what we call cognitive reframing, reframe your mindset about this. But that's what I do when somebody is really kind of focused on that grief. And a lot of times it's just because they haven't had the opportunity to process it. And so it could just be simple as that. They haven't had a safe place to talk about it. And so we just start talking about it. We start talking about the person. And it's so interesting how simplistic it is, just talking about that person or events, how the person starts feeling so much better. That they start making peace and things start coming together and making more sense for them, and they're able to move to other stages.
Now, I'm going to tie it in. So do you think that's why a lot of people, even if they don't want to go to their friends, they'll turn to a support group, because then they could just kind of let it out in a safe space, but they won't have to worry about people because they don't really know each other off top. They're just they're venting.
Yeah. I mean, because there's a neutral person, and the person who's doesn't know you personally. And on top of that, in a support group, everybody's there for the same reason.
That's what I was going to say. Because I think walking in a room, because I always feel like with depression or grief or anything that kind of shakes you in a way, you kind of feel like, but other people go through things, but in that moment I would feel like I'm the only person that went through that, or that's going through something like that.
Yeah.
And so I do think, walking in a room and seeing other people would kind of give me a small set of relief, to just know like, oh, hey, I'm not alone. Because it's like you said, it's different. Like, I haven't lost a child, or I haven't lost parents. So I feel like I can only be there so much to a certain capacity for someone. But if the person sitting next to me, has actually like lost a sibling or lost a child, we might relate on that common ground, or they may have advice to give me that, my mind just couldn't process yet.
Yeah. And you get ideas from other people, how they're processing their grief. And it encourages you too. One of the biggest things about support group is getting support, obviously, and encouragement from other people.
That's good. Yeah. So I know we have a support group. Do anybody share the information for the listeners out there? Because I don't know it.
So we have an amazing group starting today. It is our grief support group with St. Hope. And so it's going to be a 90-minute group. It's going to be virtual. So whoever can come out, come out.
Yes, and for more information, we'll link it and put it on our social media as well. That way you guys can get signed up and talk to some people who may be going through something similar. I think that's amazing.
And get some support and encouragement.
Nice.
I feel like, Sherletta, every time you come here, I just feel like I just gained so much more. Every time you come here, I'm just...
If you go in this car and start silent crying...
Cut that. I see. That's why you don't tell people nothing.
They can't wait to use it again.
Hashtag salad cry.
I feel like now, anytime like something major is going on, everybody go to like stop and pause and look at me to make sure I'm not crying.
With no sound.
Yeah,
no sound. Y'all, it's hilarious.
Me and Rachel just gonna lean over.
Y'all can ask my mom. She will tell you I am a silent crier. And I catch my family off guard too, because they'll just be like...
So it's just facial expressions, no...
It's really just... And tears. Like, they'll see me in the corner, they like, the baby crying. It's the worst thing ever. I mean... But they say I kind of laugh silently sometimes too. So if you laugh silent, you cry silent.
That's too funny. No.
Wow. I love it. It's like a silent movie.
Yeah.
It's closed caption. Asha is crying.
Yes. That's not. Asha is done crying. Still silent. Yeah. I like that though.
Aja laughed.
Yes.
No sound.
No sound. But I just think it is important that everybody even shows emotions different. So of course you're gonna grieve different, and I'm gonna tap into my little Aja moment. Always give yourself grace. Whatever you're going through and whatever you're experiencing, give yourself grace.
And it's going to take whatever it's going to take. That's what I tell people when they're like, well, it needs to take this time. It's going to take as long as you take. As long as it needs to take.
For our listeners, do you have anything else or any other positivity you want to share with them?
I would just say, you know, whether it's grief or any situation you're facing in your life or you just need to process things, we do have therapists here at St. Hope. We have 3 therapists, and just come on down. And we're definitely here to be there for you.
I love that.
I'm just gonna say, I love that.
I know.
I'm gonna make my own.
Wish Sherletta could be my therapist, but
I know. Is that a conflict of interest?
It is.
It is a conflict.
Cause she know me too well. She'll be like, she can't say, "Girl, you ain't gonna lie to me."
Or she probably be like, she's silent crying again. You only got a 45-minute lunch, babe. That's on a lighter note. Okay.
Yeah.
On a lighter note.
I think I would be the funniest person for Sherletta though.
I think we'd be neck and neck because I walk in there with my music playing, fooling me.
She'll give me my walking papers. Ma'am, you can't come back.
Thank you. You're beyond help. That would be mine. You're beyond
Stop
help.
it.
No, but thank you always for coming and shedding light on some of our most difficult topics. You always handle it so well, and we just appreciate you. Thank you so much.
I definitely enjoyed it. Thank you guys for having me.
Yes, you're going to get a plaque.
Our nice shining light on the Mic Check 2 podcast.
Yes.
And so for more information, guys, you can always call 713-778-1300 or use the chat feature on our website at offeringhope.org.
And always remember, here at St. Hope Healthcare, you're more than just a number.